The second part of this has its significance. It has its significance because it's identified. Not only did it identify the spaceship, but it identified the prophet that God was going to send back here to speak to Israel and speak to the United States of America and speak to the world. Attached on to this part. Verse 25, it said, "And there was a voice from the firmament that was over their head when they stood and had let down their wings." It's telling you that in Ezekiel chapter 1. "And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne at the appearance of the sapphire stone, and upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man above upon it. And I saw as the color of amber, as the appearance of fire round and about within it, from the appearance of his loins even upwards, and from the appearance of his loins even downwards. I saw as it was the appearance of fire, and it had the brightness round about as the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain. So was the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice of one that spake." This is the end of Ezekiel chapter 1. But I'm going to chapter 2. But before I go to chapter 2, you go to Revelation chapter 4. This tells you that God and Jesus was watching this spaceship as it come to and fro out of the earth. This prophecy was spoken long before Jesus was born, and after he was crucified, he spoke the same thing. And even in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1-13 in there, he tells you that the prophet that he sent saw this image also, and that was me. I saw this image as God called me up in the midst of the air and told me of my transgression. I saw God sitting in the center of the sun, and that's the description of this here. "And my house was firebombed and filled with smoke," spoken of in the prophecy of Isaiah chapter 6. Let me go to that and read this, and then I'm going to Revelation, where Jesus went back to his Father in heaven. This chapter here connects me with Jesus Christ and John the Baptist. The reason I say he sent me back here to rule the world. You can say anything you may. I said I went to the grave with Jesus, and this is living proof. Now, Isaiah chapter, I'm going to read the same thing that I just read there, where he was saying. He showed this here again. Isaiah chapter 6. "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the serpent. Each one had 6 wings. With twine he covered his face, and with twine he covered his feet, and with twine he did fly." These was the 3 of us connected on together, coming to be born, to be slain. But this part here, the second part, during the range of the spaceship, where I would come back, but he had to speak concerning the characteristics of myself. What will become of me after I return after the cross? Verse number 3, one cried unto the other and said, "Holy, holy, holy, the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of his temple." Listen at verse 4 now. This is when I return back to be born in the United States of America during these troubled times here. Ezekiel chapter 6, "And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." Then flew one of the serpents unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongue from off the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth, and said, Lo, this has touched thy lips, and thy iniquity is taken away, and thy sin is purged. This came to pass the year of 1995, before President George W. Bush's son ever became the president of the United States of America. This was during the reign of President George W. Bush during the Clinton era, after President George H.W. Bush, the father, excuse me if I misquoted there, had went in and invaded Iraq for the first time, the kingdom of God. God called, sent a prophet after me, and I wouldn't hear this man, and I told him when I get ready for God, you would be the first to know. From that point on, little did I know I was insulting this man, but little did I know that I was insulting God. My whole life went into a tailspin. I had a personal injury on my job, which caused me my career to end at that point. Going into the tailspin, I found myself addicted to cocaine, making me a person of unclean lips. I had to dwell among peoples of unclean lips because it was new to me, because I never had lived my life and never was a drug user of a drug. But through circumstance and event unfolding themselves around me, had somehow placed me in the midst of the drug users. And I had to associate myself with the people that I knew had been out there for a long time, some of the very people that I had condemned. Well, I was dwelling among people of unclean lips. But through circumstance, when I saw that the enemy tried to take my life, or place me in prison for the rest of my life, which I was around 50 years old, and if they gave me 50 years old with fabricated lies, I would have been arrested, live this life, a hard life, and spend remaining in prison. I didn't want my life anymore, and this was the prayer I said to God. He didn't walk away from me, that I walked away from him. Please withdraw your breath from me. That was a sinner's prayer. I know I wasn't worthy for salvation, but at that point in time, I told God, if you don't see fit for me to enter your kingdom, I will understand. But I don't want my life no more. I didn't want to live here on this earth. Instead of God withdrawing his breath from me, he placed me into a deep sleep. And he caught me up between the earth and the sun, and I seen the same exact vision of God sitting in the center of the sun. He was fire from the waist down to the waist up. The throne he was sitting on was living fire, and I saw crystal-like glass which circled the throne with one ring circling the other as it formed a sealed glass with living fire, and with a glowing image of crystal-like water going around it like diamonds, which was the image of a rainbow. This is what I saw. And when I saw this, and God told me he forgave me of my sin and told me to come back and write his gospel and speak to the people. This is what had brought me thus far. This I know is true, and didn't know. I had never read the Bible to understand the significance of all these things. And President George W. Bush's son had not yet became the president of the United States of America. His father was defeated. Little did I know either of the two was part of Bible prophecy. Well, what I said is, Ezekiel chapter 2, chapter 2 of the space shuttle. And he said unto me, Son of man, stand up on thy feet, and I will speak unto thee. And the Spirit entered into me when he spake unto me, and set me upon my feet, that I heard him that spake unto me. And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me, even unto this day. For they are impotent children and stiff-hearted. I do send